How far would you go if your company refused to pay your final check? Back in the late 90s, during the wild .com boom, I worked for a small software company just outside Boston. It was a golden time to be in IT. If you were good, sometimes even if you weren't, companies would fight to hire you. I had managed to triple my salary in just 3 years by switching jobs and moving across the country. Things were going smoothly until the day we got the news. Our company had been bought by a larger firm based in New Jersey. A few weeks later, the Bobs from the parent company showed up to interview everyone. It felt like something out of a bad movie, people whispering in hallways, pretending not to panic. Somehow I came out lucky. I was offered a transfer to their headquarters in New Jersey as manager of network services, reporting directly to the CTO. They even agreed to cover my relocation costs if I stayed for at least a year. The new position sounded great. I'd have a team of 5 system admins and 2 DBAs under me, and I'd oversee the entire network infrastructure, servers, databases, power systems, HVAC, the works. But the honeymoon ended fast. As soon as I began reviewing the setup, I discovered a disaster waiting to happen. The company didn't have any software licenses. Every Windows server, every SQL database, they were all running unlicensed copies. I immediately went to the CTO and showed him what I'd found. We both knew this was serious. We prepared a proposal to bring the company into compliance. It would cost about $100,000 just for the server licenses alone. At the next management meeting, we presented our findings to the executives. Their response? Denied. They didn't want to spend the money. We documented everything, in writing and in emails to cover ourselves. Month after month, we'd bring it up again, and they'd brush it off. Fast forward a few months. The company's dream of going public was falling apart. The owners, wealthy construction magnates with no real understanding of technology, were watching their brilliant tech investment crumble. Cash was draining fast, and layoffs began. I had to let go of my entire team, one by one, until I was the only person left maintaining the whole infrastructure. At that point, I wanted out. But the relocation contract meant that if I quit early, I'd owe thousands of dollars. So I hatched a plan. I'd get myself fired. My CTO friend, who was planning his own exit, knew exactly what I was doing. I started by moving my things into one of the big, empty executive offices upstairs. No one stopped me. The next morning, the COO walked by, did a double take, but didn't say a word. For 2 weeks, I worked from my new fancy office without issue, until the COO finally told my boss he wanted me moved out to make room for an accountant. I told my boss, if I move out of this office, I'm moving my stuff straight to my car. Another 2 weeks passed, and the COO insisted again. My boss warned him to drop it, but he didn't listen. So when the CTO came to tell me the order was final, I printed my resignation letter, walked straight into the COO's office, dropped it on his desk without knocking, and walked out. His expression was priceless. I picked up my box and left. A week later, I called about my final paycheck. The COO said they were withholding it to cover relocation costs. I calmly explained that it was illegal to do that. They could sue me if they wanted, but they still had to pay what I'd earned. He said, do what you gotta do. So I did. My first call was to the New Jersey Labor Board to report unpaid wages. The second was to the Software Publishers Association, the group representing companies like Microsoft, to report the company's massive software piracy. I provided full documentation of their unlicensed systems and even offered to testify. When my labor case was heard, the HR manager smugly presented the signed relocation contract, thinking it would save them. But I argued that since my entire staff had been laid off, I was no longer a manager, which meant they had broken the terms of the agreement. The arbitrator agreed. The company was ordered to pay me triple the withheld wages as a penalty and to refund every cent of the fake healthcare deductions they'd taken from my paychecks. Meanwhile, the Software Publishers Association sent in their auditors. The CTO handed over all the documentation we'd kept. The audit was brutal. They ended up settling for around $250,000 to avoid going to court. The SPA paid me a bounty of 10%, a cool $25,000 for the tip. That settlement drained what little cash the company had left. Within a few months, they were sold off for pocket change to a competitor, mainly for their customer list. And that's how I went from being a frustrated IT manager to watching an entire company collapse under the weight of its own bad decisions, all because they tried to play games with the one guy who knew where every wire, every password, and every secret was buried.